Hello, everyone, and hi, Anyieth. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you
Happy
for
to be
being here, and
here.
what a blessing and gift. And Anyieth is with me tonight, and she is the founder of the Roots Project, and she's a human rights lawyer, and she's a mind and body practitioner. She's an artist, and she's a mother, and a daughter, and a partner, and all the good things. And so I wanted to talk about healing and leadership and mending the divide. And I know that this is a place where you have moved and seen, and that you're a part of the mending uh, in such a beautiful way. And so I wanted to be in a conversation with you about your thoughts about, how can we heal these divides, and what is healing leadership, and also about mending, like the mending of these divides, the healing of these divides. I wanted to be in a conversation with you about that. And
Thank you. Um, yeah, we need a lot of healing. A lot of pain is out there. A lot of pain is coming out. A lot of pain is changing us, changing people, changing the way that we see things, the way we see people, the way we see our lives. I think that pain and trauma end up being the root of everything that we see and we do. So, in mind body, we think about um, the the biological responses that emerge from trauma,
mm,
and then how it affects everything. You know, everything that we do, everything that we think, everything that we believe, everything that we feel,
mm,
all the attitudes that we have and develop, and also how when we start to heal, how all of that changes as well. You know, so when we live in a world where we have people like human rights lawyers and activists, and it just seems to be getting worse.
mm, mm.
It seems like we're getting further and further apart, and it's for many reasons. It could be because we're different colors. It could be because we believe in different things, because we live in different places. But it's just part of the myth, I think, because we're all constantly in the state that we are trying to divide ourselves. So even within
Yeah.
families, within friendships, within people who are seemingly the same, we're able to find that way of dividing. But I think that we are always trying to heal as well. you know and how do we catalyze that, make the spark bigger, kind of roll it out more, because the pain is like wildfire. It starts and it just
Jesus, yeah.
burns everything in its wake. But at the same time, I think that we can be assured that in the burnt fields, things survive, and it creates uh, um, fertile ground, for other things to grow if we let it.
Yeah, like
you
the
know?
fallow,
Yeah,
the fallow
exactly.
fields. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's hard to be positive in this world, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah. A little bit of a lot of that.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
hard to
It's
be
hard to
positive
be,
in
yeah.
this world, but we're not doing many things in the way that we can say is healing, right?
Right.
So we have leadership that divides people, leadership that thrives because they're dividing people, and leaders that say things like, "Look what they did."
Right.
can you call them humans?
Yeah.
You know, or we are not like that, you know, and it's like, we are actually.
Guess what? Yeah.
We are, you know,
Yeah.
how
It's in all of us.
how
It's in all of us.
brutal they are,
Mhm.
how inhumane. They're
Mm.
like animals, but you know, we're all capable of that. We've
Yeah.
all been there, and we've seen it before. So if we've seen it before, and we've been able to overcome at that time, and we're repeating it, you know, it's a disservice to, you know, the things that happened before, and as well to those who lost, right?
Yeah.
Those who we lost, those who suffered, and to ourselves now. That's the thing,
Mhm.
you know. So I would love to see leadership that brings people together, leadership that convinces the masses that no, you know, let's look at this with love and compassion, you know, and connection and understanding that we can do anything, you know, we can be
Together.
the worst,
Yeah.
and we can be the best,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah, we can be the worst and we can be the
we can be
best.
the
Yeah.
worst and we can be the best. Like that's the thing. It's like it's hard to hear as a human rights lawyer, right? Like, and I've been studying this, what people do. This is what it is. What people are capable of doing to one another, and what people are able to do using state apparatus, whether it's government, army, so police, or whatever government structures, to be able to suppress, oppress people. And we are capable of a lot. We've always been. Always been. So we shouldn't really just say, oh, it's never happened before. It's happened before. And we keep doing it again, you know? But, and that's where.
Surpresa. Everybody is like, oh, I'm so surprised. You know, it's like, no, we're not.
And you know, when we were going through our war in South Sudan, people used to go, oh, I can't imagine. And the thing is, I went through some of the things that I used to read about, you know, whether it's the fleeing, the uncertainty, you know, like living under gunshot, you know, bombs, not knowing, you know, what's going to happen the next moment. And I didn't, you know, it was very new to me. So when I would explain it to people, they would say, oh, can't imagine, you know? And I used to say, well, you know what? I couldn't either a few moments, you know, months ago, whatever. But try and imagine, and also try and remember that your ancestors did actually experience those things.
Yeah.
Right? So let's remember. Yeah. You know?
It's in your it's in your DNA, it's in your blood, it's in your psyche. It's you know, it's moving there. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's remember, and also know that, you know, we exist in these two different places. In the, you know, those who have caused, those who suffer, those who are on the sidelines. And just know that that position just keeps changing, because we're all human, we're all the same, we're all one. One day, you know, we will experience all of these things. And in there lives forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right? Like forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness for the other, forgiveness for what we feel, what we believe, what we think, you know, and not to be so hard on, this is what I think, and this is how it is, and that's it, you know.
I remember when I was reading the book by Desmond Tutu and his daughter about the forgiveness book.
The Book of Forgiveness, I believe, yeah.
And I was reading that, and I was reading about just that very first chapter of forgiveness. I think we've got. Should I read this? This, the prayer before the prayer.
Yes, love it.
Prayer Before the Prayer by Desmond and Mafo
Yeah.
Tutu. I want to be willing to let go, to forgive, but dare not ask for the will to forgive in case you give it to me. And I'm not yet ready. I'm not yet ready for my heart to soften. I'm not yet ready to be vulnerable again. Not yet ready to see that there is humanity in my tormentor's eyes, or that the one who hurt me may also have cried. I'm not yet ready for the journey. I'm not yet interested in the path. I'm at the prayer before the prayer of forgiveness. Grant me the will to want to forgive. Grant me the will to want to forgive. Grant it to me, not yet, but soon. Can I even form the words, forgive me? Dare I even look? Do I dare to see the hurt I have caused? I can glimpse all the shattered pieces of that fragile thing, that soul trying to rise on the broken wings of hope. But only out of the corner of my eye, I'm afraid of it. And I'm afraid to see, how can I not be afraid to say, forgive me? Is there a place where we can meet, you and me? The place in the middle where we straddle the lines, where you are right and I am right too, and both of us are wrong and wronged? Can we meet there and look for the place where the path begins, the path that ends when we forgive?
So beautiful.
Prayer before the prayer.
So beautiful.
Yeah. So I think, the prayer before the prayer, it's like there is those spaces, right, where it's like, I know that I see myself as a forgiving person, a kind, compassionate person. And then there's this other, right, that I've kind of made, this other part of me that I've got kind of like over here a little bit. So I don't have to like look at like the fact that I think things are like fucked up and stupid, and I get really angry, and I get into that need to be right. And then that's where I have to just be like, oh, and accept all of myself. I think part of it is kind of that putting it over here a little bit instead of kind of integrating, like, oh, like what you were saying, like this is a part of all of us.
Yeah.
We all have this in our nature. We all have the ability to do any of these things. Yeah. And so, how to come to, oh, how do I, what they're saying, how do I want to be willing to let go, to forgive, but I dare not ask for that willingness in case you give it to me,
Yeah.
So there's just something about, in case I'm not yet ready to like, and I think there's something about just seeing that part of ourselves. And this reminds me of the drama triangle, what you were talking about those who've caused it, those who've suffered, and those on the sidelines. So it follows that, the victim, the perpetrator, the enabler.
Yeah.
And how to remove ourselves from this triangle, I think, has to do with the healing leadership.
Yeah.
And how to hold our leaders. It's kind of like they're not being held accountable. It's not kind of like they're not being held accountable.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we hold one another accountable? And, is there a council process where we can come into council together and lead in a collective for the good of all, where we can do collaborative leadership that's conscious and aware, and where there's real conversations, real healing conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the leaders that we have are us.
Ta-da!
Right?
Clink.
They're us. Cheers. We are the leaders.
We are the leaders. Yes, they are us.
And they need, right? They need that same dose of forgiveness, being forgiven, and healing.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they're being driven by fear.
Right.
Right? It's the fear of accountability, It's the fear of being wrong. But like, who created this world where we can't be wrong?
Right.
Where, you know,
Yeah.
where we just, like there's no a non-forgiving environment. We created it, and we
Right.
keep creating it. And as you were reading that poem, oh my God, so much was coming to me, because it took me first to a workshop that I did in South Sudan a year and a half ago. So summer of 2022. And I didn't know what this workshop was. I was doing my own healing work there. And then I was called to, present 1 hour of, healing, and then 1 hour of the project that I do, another project that I do, which is documenting names of victims of violence in South Sudan. And it was a workshop for some of the people who suffered the most in the wars that we had. So from 2013, some 2019, some even 2020. And a lot of the people in the group had lost multiple family members. Many of them had suffered gang rapes. Many of them were left for dead, and survived miraculously with many bullet wounds, and but they survived, and they were mostly angry and therefore vocal.
Yeah.
Right. So they were collected to become advocates against mass atrocities. And they were like, yes, we want to do it. So they came for this workshop to be, given sort of like training on how to work together and how to document and how to just be effective advocates. But the problem is that they were suffering from massive, massive trauma, of course.
Layered trauma.
Yeah.
Layers.
And so when I came, first of all, I noticed that nobody was paying attention to the presenter. Everybody was very fidgety and, just talking to each other, like doing their own thing. Some were just looking down. Some were just getting up and walking around. So I thought I'd start with an opening meditation before my session. So I just invited them to sit and to breathe, and let's just, take a slow, deep breath. Breathe out through the nose, breathe out through the mouth, relax your body, feel the floor beneath your feet. Just slow everything down, slow it all down and just breathe. And, nothing else to do in this moment. Just breathe and just feel your belly getting soft and relaxed. Quiet the mind, quiet your body. And it was beautiful. Even for me, I was just like, oh.
I know. I'm melting right now. I'm just like, oh. And
just feeling.
I breathe. I feel the floor. Yeah.
And then when I said, no, you can just open your eyes. You can, move your fingers and your feet, stretch a bit, open your eyes. I looked around and everybody was just like smiling and present.
Oh, yeah.
And then they were like, I have never felt like that before. I've not, it's just like, I feel so rested. I feel like all the things in my head have disappeared. And I was like, wow. And then now I'd really like to know who you are. So tell me your names.
Yeah, like what's your name?
And so I introduced myself, and, they were paying attention. They all went around, introduced themselves, but suddenly we were like, connected. And then I started talking about my project, because I thought, okay, I'll do the mental health training after, because I know that it's, documenting names of victims is a hard thing for anybody, let alone people who, the kinds of people that were in the workshop, which is survivors of human rights violations. And they, as soon as I started talking about it, I could see them all shutting down. And there were like 25 of them, just like the room had changed and everybody started getting agitated again. And then I said, okay, my 1 hour is going to go down to like 15. And then I'm just going to do the mental, because I had to be there to do the thing that I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I just said, blah, 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 blah. Here's the website. If you want to put the name, just put, but you know,
Put it up. Yeah.
but one lady got up and said, I don't want to talk about death. I don't want to hear anything about death. Mind you, the workshop is about becoming advocates against mass atrocities.
Right.
So then I was
Yeah.
like, but isn't that what you're here
Right.
to
look. Yeah.
you know? And she's like, I don't want to hear anything about death. And then another lady got up and she started just shouting at me. And then one of the guys just put his head down. And it was very, very hard, very, very hard. And I said, okay, let's just, start again. And I said, okay, let's get up, do some movement. Started talking again and said, oh, maybe we can do a little bit of sharing. And it didn't go well because I was alone, and there were too many. And it was a big learning for me, to just take it slow, because I could feel their pain and I really wanted them to process it or let it, just be able to unload a little bit.
Move that through, yeah.
But it was too fast, and people just reacted, like running. People were running. People were screaming.
An hour, yeah, that's
people were shaking. People were throwing up. It was intense.
Yeah.
And one of the participants also got up and said, "Why should we heal? Why should we heal?" And I thought, well, yeah.
It's a very good question.
But,
very good question.
I mean, I could feel it because, when I lost my cousin, actually, when I got on the plane going to his funeral, I kept telling myself that I don't want to go to that darkness, right? I don't want to go to that dark side. I was broken, but that's one thing I kept praying. It's like I don't want to hate, right? I don't want to go there because I knew there was more to that act than, just what they did. It's not just to him, it was the nation, right? Everybody's being killed, everybody. So there's more. And anyway, but it's true. It's a very good question. Why should I heal?
Yeah.
And then the day was over. And I apologized to everybody and I said, I am praying tonight and I'm praying to the organizers to let me come again tomorrow with people so that I can do this properly.
Yeah.
And the organizers were great. They just said, sure. They said, sure, because actually it's been like this a lot. It's been throughout all the days of the training. It had been like this. They're just like outbursts and lack of concentration and anger and just, like it's difficult.
Yeah.
So the next day I prayed that night, I cried that night, I shaked, I drew, I wrote, I cried, everything. And I just wanted to be able to give them that answer, why to heal.
Yeah.
And that morning, so I didn't sleep all night. I got there and I had called some of the people that did Mind Body, also in South Sudan, and I said, I need you. And they were like, we're there.
Oh, yes.
And
Come
they came
down.
and, we sat together, I explained the situation, and we broke ourselves into the 4 groups. Most of them were co-facilitated because it was heavy and I knew it was going to be heavy. And we went through the group, which is we start with an opening meditation. We do a check-in, and basically it was really the check-in. The check-in was to see, for people to be able to unload. But before we did the groups, I said to them, I have been thinking about that question, and you people lost, like a woman lost her two sons and her husband. She was alone. A little girl, 14 years old, lost her parents. She was alone. There was a man, he lost 9 members of his family in front of him.
My God.
And he was left for dead.
Ugh.
And he was just like, you know, oh, and so much pain, too much pain, right? And I said, I cannot imagine. I cannot. I mean, I'm trying to, but I what you're going through is a lot, and I just want to invite you on this path of healing. And it's like, I was like, imagine it's a path. There's people on it. There's people on the side of it. And the people on it have all these burdens. They're like big boulders on them. And as they go on this path, sometimes more is put on top of them. Sometimes they're able to unload a little bit of it. And that's where we are. And that's what I want you to join me on. Not to be on the side. Just get on the road, and together let's walk and unload a little bit, unload a little bit. Other things will happen and we'll get more, but let's get into the little bit of the unloading if we can, And they responded and they said, okay. And we went, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, because we sat in the circle, and it was amazing because we picked everyone at random, as we do sometimes. And I did, because I didn't know everyone's background, but I knew that there was a lot of pain. And I ended up actually with a group of people, most who had lost multiple family members. And others had groups where most people were gang raped. And like, it was just interesting how it happened like that.
The mystery unfolds within the select. Yeah.
Right?
Like the mystery chooses somehow. Yeah.
And then we shared the things that we were carrying, and it was like, it felt like, I don't know, but I felt like I was choking, and I'm trying to hold this group, right? And I felt like I was gonna like choke from all the pain until we reached the very end, and the last person spoke, and collectively we just went, and it was like such an unloading. And then we took breaths, we breathed, we moved a little bit, and we breathed together, like, and closed the circle. And then we went back inside. And for the first time, like since I've been in the training, everybody was like, the energy completely shifted, And it was just like a day and a half of that. And the thing is, and that really, for me, it was amazing because I still keep in touch with a lot of them. And they call me sometimes. And one person said to me, today, I know I'm going to go home a different person than what I came. And I was like, oh, and there was just so much. There was just so much. And they were like, I want to take this home. I want to do this for the people in my village who suffered just like me, And the thing is, we do this training in 4 days or 5 days, depending, right? And what I believe is that we're so amazing, humans and divine, but that
Great spirit.
Yes, that when we are reminded of forgiveness, or reminded of healing, or reminded of a feeling that we hadn't had in a very, very long time, even care, even just to be heard.
Oh, just hearing.
Really heard, like, even though we're like, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one in the group who was like, almost like, that because we gave whoever was speaking all the attention, mind, body, spirit, eyes, ears, everything. That, they felt heard. And it's like that little taste reminded them of just what else was out there, right?
Yeah, there's
And
something
it's like,
else.
that there's something else, and that there's more than just the pain, right? And I really feel that if we can't do more, that we can do that.
Yeah.
Like just really listen to somebody. Just sit, quiet yourself, feel the pain, let them share. Even if you feel like you're choking, just hold it. Breathe.
Just try to
just breathe.
Have some oxygen.
Breathe,
Get some oxygen going.
Yeah,
just
for breathe. Sure. And sometimes you can start with listen, right?
Yeah.
And then just that little, and that's what it was for the whole trip. Actually, in South Sudan, it was just little snippets, just giving people a little feeling of just like the healing, the connection, the possibilities, and reminding them, right? Because they were born like that.
Yeah.
Right? They were born with the ability to heal and to, oh yeah, that happened, but yay, right? Yeah. And then big trauma comes and steals it. But when you remind it all again,
there's something else.
There's something else.
And I love that. There's something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, thank you, Anyieth, for sharing that story. I think there's something about our quickness, our, the healing. Angeles Arian used to say that healing doesn't happen in the fast lane. That, and I mean, healing takes time. Healing, it requires that there's a pace to healing, and that's that spaciousness and that silence and that, but also the ability to hold all of that tension. And if someone can hold that tension and keep loving us and accepting us, we were talking earlier about how it all starts in the home, right? Like the leadership, like it begins in our homes. And that's what you're talking about, is that, in our home or in our homeland or on our home ground or in our ancestral grounds, or, these atrocities happen. But the healing happens when we're able to address it and say, yes, yes. And my partner, sometimes I will just get so into my thing, and she'll just be like, I'm on your side. And all that, everything, and it's just, but just to have someone who's on our side, and and on our side is just, there's the Buddhist forgiveness prayer, which is the if I've harmed anyone in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through my own confusions, I ask forgiveness. If anyone has harmed me, either knowingly or unknowingly through their own confusions, I forgive them. If there's a situation that I'm not yet ready to forgive, and for all the ways that I harm myself, negate, doubt, belittle myself, judge, or be unkind to myself through my own confusions, I forgive myself for that. And it's just, I think that, when we're talking about forgiveness, we're also talking about love. And love is never, I mean, that's not an easy thing.
Mm-mm.
You know, that's been my experience, is it's not an
Yeah.
easy thing. But I was looking at this. This is a Bessel van der Kolk from Body Keeps the Score,
Right.
Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. And he says the brain disease model overlooks 4 fundamental truths. Our capacity to destroy one another is matched by our capacity to heal one another. Restoring relationships and community is central to restoring well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Language, which is exactly what you were just saying, language gives us the power to change ourselves and others by communicating our experiences,
Right.
helping us to define what we know and finding a common sense of meaning. And then 3, we have the ability to regulate our own physiology, including some of the, which is your meditation, right? Going in and the breathing,
Mm-hmm.
including some of the so-called involuntary functions of the body and brain through some basic activities, breathing, moving, and touching.
Mm-hmm.
4, we can change social conditions to create environments in which children and adults can feel safer and where they can thrive.
Yeah.
And that you were able to bring your medicine and to create these conditions where healing could happen. And
Yeah.
so I think I just would like to ask, what are some ways that we can begin to create the conditions where the healing can happen?
Oh my God, Char.
I know, it's just a simple question. We can wrap up with that. No. We can do another one.
Right.
But just a couple of
condition.
ideas, either internally or in our environment or.
Yeah, well, people always say, I think, people used to say, oh, you have to heal yourself and change the world, or change yourself and change the world. And it sounds kind of strange, especially if you haven't really experienced it, right? So I think, for people who do healing as much as possible, whenever you can, even when you're not being paid, even when you're on the bus.
Even when you're on the bus.
Anytime you can, just give somebody a little bit, because it really is that. It's like just breathing or really hearing, or, it's like just giving someone a different experience. Because another thing that hurts a lot is also like just this world of no trust. So this year, when I opened Facebook, which I do just to kind of watch what the world is saying.
What are they doing now?
I barely post, but I'm like, we're still the same. Still struggling. But a lot of people, make posts. It's a new year, and I was sad to see a lot of people talking about not sharing, because they don't trust.
Right. Yeah.
And it sounds like a way to control your environment, but we're not meant to not share. We're meant to do this, right?
Right.
Where is this? Our capacity to destroy one another is matched by the capacity to heal one another. Restoring relationships and community is central to restoring well-being. Right? Like the way the way we relate to one another is part of the healing.
Yeah.
It is not. To manage my mental health, I need to cut off X, Y, and Z. It's like kind of, but not really, right?
Right.
And it's like because we need people.
Yeah, we're pack animals. Yeah.
Look at the baby.
Right.
The baby will not survive if they're not held. Yeah. They waste away. If they're not held and loved, they will not thrive.
Yeah.
That need exists to the day we die. Doesn't stop because, we become 5 years old or whatever, we
or
need
50
it.
or
Yeah, we need it. We need it. We need it. It is part of our well-being. It's part of the world's the community, the family, the community, the the world,
the humanity,
the
humanity
the
of
earth,
all the
you
and all
know?
the other beings here with
Yeah,
us
you know, and
too.
it's like people are, you know, and then you make yourself hard. No, I don't need anybody. You do.
Oh
You
yeah,
do. You
yeah.
know, we all do. And the thing is, so it's like, how can you show people who are being cold, I'm not going to share, that it's okay?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can tell them something that is personal or painful, or just share something that you're able and willing to share, you know, in that moment.
Creating an
Trust them.
opening. Yeah.
You may not trust me, but I will trust you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And in that, actually, you also heal, because we always need to bring stuff out. We always need to explain things, you know?
And share our hearts, shed light. Shed light on each other's hearts, or shed attention and love on each other's hearts. Or sit in the darkness together. I think I heard on NPR from, I wish I remembered who said that. We all just need to sit in the darkness together.
Yeah.
So sublime.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and sometimes it'll be hard. Some people will be like, I don't want to know, or whatever it is. And it's fine. So then
they don't have to know.
You know?
Know.
And they don't have to know.
Yeah.
But it's like, when people are willing to receive and able to receive, you can give, right? And so how do you create this environment, these conditions? And it's just taking responsibility for the fact that the world is the way it is, because we're also in it.
We are a part of all that. Yes, guess what?
Yeah, we're part of the problem. Because that's the only way that we can, instead of being like, oh, it's them. Who's them?
Yeah.
Who's them?
It's us.
It's you.
It's
Char.
we. It's me. It's we. It's us.
Right. You know, so it's like, and then if you think of it like that, then you can see the responsibility, the things that you can do to participate. You know, people don't trust one another. Why? Because we've created that world. But what kind of world is that? A world where people don't trust one another.
It's a world where we're not trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so how can we be? Yeah.
And it hurts when you say something and someone is like,
oh, right. Yeah.
Someone ignores you.
Yeah.
Right? It hurts.
Sensitive soul. Yeah.
Someone doesn't believe something that you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
That hurts.
Yeah.
Same for them. And we've created that. Yeah. You know? So that's one way that I have always, for a long time, been trying to sort of create that. And then, you know, sometimes it doesn't work well, and it's fine. Forgive yourself. And forgive them.
We're gonna have a little forgiveness ceremony.
Yeah.
And that's forgiveness. Both of those forgiveness prayers, like when we're not ready, we can say this one, and when we are ready, we can say the other one. And
yeah,
you know, ceremonies and rituals of
exactly. Ceremony and rituals, and also doing stuff intentionally, right? That's what it is, really. Yeah.
You know, we were talking about peace too, and like the ceremonies and the rituals and the practices of, you know, creating peace. And you'd given me a book that I really treasure, and there might be
Daba, my children. Knowledge, my children.
Yes.
So peace is really hard.
Yeah.
Or easy.
Yeah. Yes and yes. Yes and yes.
So I was mentioning about my cousin that was killed. He was a doctor and a healer, and not very political. And he was killed in South Sudan. We don't know why yet. Still, we don't know who did it. And it's been really painful for my family, and really, I don't know, really, really painful, because he was full of joy, and he was hardworking, and he did a lot. He could have done more. He was just under 40 when he died. And I was on my way to his funeral in bits and pieces. And I was like, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sit. I couldn't lie down. I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't do anything. I was just like restless, right? Trauma. And a friend of mine who I stayed with waiting for my flight gave me her book and said, no, she didn't actually give it to me. It was right next to the bed that I was trying to sleep on. But couldn't.
Attempting
yeah sleep. And I'd seen it there many times before, but this time I picked it up and I opened it, and it opened to a chapter called it was The Race That Died. And it kind of like, I was like because because my cousin died during the war. And it was a war where we, as South Sudanese, after we fought against them, started to fight against one another. And it was such a confusing war because it was like, you see this when you're growing up or whatever, you feel like you begin to understand the world and how things are and all that stuff. And then something happens that makes you like, huh? Well, yeah. Anyway, now I know that's how it always is. But at the time, that's what it was. So when I got to that chapter, I was like, oh my gosh, and I read it, and it's African mythology. So it's stories, oral stories that were written down finally in the 60s by this Sanusi from South Africa. And so anyway, when I went to the funeral, it was just one of the things that I just read. I read, and it really it was the one thing that really could capture my attention. And it really also made me feel like we've been through this before. We've been through these things before, And so it really kind of like was a nice way for me to see it from another perspective, see things from another perspective. And also the war was really painful. I lost many friends, relatives, many, and still do until today. Because of the effects of trauma and heartache, substance abuse, and actually I just lost a very good friend just the beginning of this month. And it was like, it just makes me feel sort of like, we need to do the work. We need to continue the work, and we need to spread the work, because more people need to be able to have this taste of healing, to know that it doesn't always have to be,
it can be different.
Yeah, it can be different.
We can have a different experience.
Yeah. And so this one was a piece. So it was a war between two tribes of two brothers, two chiefs who were brothers, and gossip and blah, blah, blah. And then they started someone killed someone's son, and they just started, this war just blew up. And it just sounds very similar to what happened in South Sudan. And it sounds very similar to what happened in Sudan right now, and also what is happening in many other places.
Yes.
Right. And really, why do we fight wars? Why do we fight wars? For what? We fight wars so as a human rights lawyer, we always say people, like, human rights violations or human rights violations, killings, attacks, like what we see in Israel, Palestine, spark war, right? In South Sudan, it was rumors and again, also killings of people that sparked the war. Everywhere, that's what happens. It always starts with the spark, and people die, and then it motivates anger and frustration and revenge, and next thing you know, it's war. But what is it for?
Right.
is it for healing? Is it for justice? Is it for peace? Is it like, what is it? And does it actually create that? Does it actually create the conditions,
Right.
for peace, for resolution, for restoration, for justice, for what? And so this is where I always try and be kind of like hung up rather than sort of like, this person did this and this person did that. And it's like, what are we trying to achieve? Right? When we go all out. At the end of it, what's going to be there? What are we creating? Then you have just wars. War for self-determination, which is what we had, but then we ended up killing ourselves. Right? War for what else could there be war for? Independence. War of independence. War of it's independence, really, right?
Yeah,
Here
independence,
it's been
freedom.
Independence, freedom, self-determination, all that stuff.
The religious wars.
So,
which seem kind of ungodly.
Right.
Just saying.
And rarely actually do we get there. Rarely do we get there. So, so this book.
I haven't studied war enough. I need to study some more war. No, more peace. We need to study more peace.
Exactly, peace studies.
And the treaties, right? Like I think about the treaties, and like there's the Treaty of Eternal Peace. There's the Versailles Treaty. There's there's all these different treaties, and it's just interesting. I have there's a lineage that I have that has never broken a treaty, and there's lineage that I have that's never kept a treaty, So it's kind of interesting to just be at these different, there's so many different treaties between, these different ethnicities and cultures in my blood and in my lineage, that it's so interesting just to be like, oh, okay, well, I have this and I have this, and I'm Iranian and I'm Jewish, and I have this mixed Native Indigenous, I have this European, I have, so it's just interesting to be like, oh, these treaties, so many treaties. I've been really researching all the different treaties in my lineage between the people who created me. So it's just, or the lineage, the different ancestors. So I just think it's so interesting that, that it's like, oh, so it's interesting. I've been studying the treaties, and then some of the treaties, like Treaty of Eternal Peace, lasted 6 years, So it's just interesting. And some treaties were never kept, and some treaties were, so it's just interesting to see, what it takes to maintain the, once you've made a treaty, who's keeping that treaty.
Right.
And I think about, our treaties with ourselves, and our treaties with our loved ones, and can we keep a treaty or a covenant with ourselves,
right,
let alone with another human? And then it goes, like you said, it goes out, and it's like, oh well,
the micro to the macro,
right? And so,
wow, that's really interesting, because in South Sudan, one of the things that we always say is well, my uncle wrote a book called Too Many Agreements Dishonored. And actually, this has been the pattern of peace in South Sudan, is just the inability to honor the peace, right? It's just like, you sign. And it just, you sign while it's being broken.
Gee.
Right? Yeah. So, and that's it. You're creating a world where there's no trust, right? Even at that high level. So then what's left, really?
Yeah.
And so when I came across this book and this war, this horrible war, and it goes on for many, many, many chapters until it reaches a chapter called Hurl the War Spear Back. And then, and it's really about the ending of the war. And then the peace ceremony is the next chapter. Let peace reign supreme. And here in this, I found a lot of hope, and also what's lacking, right? And what's lacking being that we don't do things intentionally with the ceremony to make it really real.
Yeah.
Right?
The ceremony to make it really real. Yeah.
Because just like, oh yeah, let's sit down, and we go to like a hotel and, you know, the conference room.
Like,
doesn't seem to like, yeah,
okay.
it's like, okay, maybe it's nice, have good coffee and snacks and
Oh yeah. But we need a
cakes.
fire.
We need a fire.
We need a fire.
We need intention.
And we need, yeah.
We need dancing.
See.
We need prayer.
Yeah.
We need, yeah, you know, the
maybe
prayers
some
that they're
drumming
also-
could be good.
Some drumming.
Maybe everybody has a drum. There's
And
no-
everybody is also included.
Yeah.
So this is the
Everybody
other
has a voice.
problem is that we don't have a very inclusive piece. But and then it's rushed sometimes, like within days. So the book that my uncle wrote is based on a peace agreement that was written, I think, in 3 days or something, and it lasted 9 years. Not bad, but
Yeah.
but still not
Pretty
good
good.
enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A minute.
Because then the war after that was 21 years.
Mm.
So it says, the laws of the tribe require that if people intend to do something of importance, time should be taken to do that something properly. And it was the deepest sacrilege for anyone to try rushing the preparations for something as important, as great, and as sacred as a ceremony for peace. And then it goes on. News. And then they have the stone that they carve, and it's called the peace stone. And it says, peace will reign between these two tribes for 1,000 years, right? And so news of this rare event has traveled like wildfire over the lands of many tribes. A peace ceremony, a rare thing that happens once every 500 years. I mean, we don't want it to happen every 500 years, but
frequency.
Well, the rarity of war as well,
Yeah,
right?
That's a good thing.
So then there were these peace songs that were sung by the two groups. Now lo, the weary impists lay down their bloody spears, and from war's night they turn away to seek the dawn of peace. Souls by hatred scorched, they seek refuge now from hatred's flame. War-weary soldiers come to seek the fair embrace of peace. Let us come together, friends, and build from war's destruction love. Those who carry hatred still today, let them do so nevermore. The summer of peace has arrived. War's dark winter has fled, and nevermore shall there be heard amongst us the song of war. The dark deeds of yesterday, my brothers, let us bury them now. Let us now as brothers wait for tomorrow's peaceful dawn. And the story goes on. They just, the different levels of community, one, from this side and that side, come together and start whispering peace into each other's ears. Or they light fires together, or they pray together, or they serve food together. They do things like that. And then they bring the stone, the peace stone. And this is a little bit dramatic, but they bring a peace stone to bury it and seal this peace of 1,000 years. But they do so with a sacrifice, which is the most loved people, one from this tribe and one from that tribe. And they bury them with the peace stone, which is painful. Yeah. But, looked at or thought of sort of symbolically is, both sides make a sacrifice so dear to them that they will honor this peace. Yeah. That the peace will be honored. And sacrifice. Yeah.
Means to make sacred, right?
Yeah.
It comes from sacra.
Yeah.
So it's like sacrifice means to make sacred. Yeah. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Right. And whatever that looks like, we need to be as intentional as that, But we're getting further and further away, because also, leadership these days is really hard.
Yeah.
Especially that leadership is much older, and they're able and willing to do, crazy things to their, what would be like their kids, or grandkids. Imprisonment, silencing, killing, and it's like, we need to make something sacred again. It's important,
Yeah.
right? And ceremony is important, and doing things intentionally, and doing things, and also, as you were talking about making, making treaties with ourselves and what we are wanting to do with our families, with, things like that. It's like, without the intentionality, it just becomes like, like a New Year's resolution.
Right.
But it needs to be more than that. More than just, okay, it's the New Year, so now I'm going to say I'm going to do this, and that. But how to make it more intentional.
Yeah.
With prayer, with, and really just make it so.
I think it's really, thinking about the stone, and I'm thinking about just, even if that ritual of having a stone, or like I was sharing some of my stones with you earlier, and we consider our stones very sacred, and they're precious, and they're little guardians and guides and helping spirits. But I think that there's something about, I just think about how sacred the stone is. And, I think about a peace stone having a ritual where people could even carry one, or carry a reminder, even if it's not a stone, some kind of like what we can create. And I think there's that saying, that Heidegger quote in the chapel at the UN that says, do you want to create or do you want to destroy? And I think we can create, even though many people, like, the rituals have been destroyed due to genocide, or the rituals have been destroyed due to suppression, or the rituals have been, and so, but there's something in us that remembers. There's something in us that, like, knows to touch the earth, or knows to listen to the wind, or remembers that there's something that's greater than a human being.
Yeah.
And wants to make some kind of contact with the sacred. And it's amazing to me that we don't want to make the sacrifices required to touch the earth, or to listen to the wind, or to recognize that, so I think what you're saying about, what you're reading about, there are sacrifices that we can make that are, going to challenge our comfort, that are really good for us. So there are, sacrifices that are a blessing to us and to others. And I think one of those is, like, to get out of our focus on ourselves as individuals, and to instead focus on, how are we doing? How are you? I know I'm blessed, I'm fine, and if I'm okay, I can turn to my brother, or my sister, or my sibling, or my friend, and ask, like, how are you? But how can we start taking care of us, instead of being, having that, being so centered on the self? And I think that's one of the ways that you're speaking to, how did you say it? Giving someone a little something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was very beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The stone. It's true. It's like, just connecting with everything, right? And taking care of all the distractions that are there, trying to take you from understanding or realizing that the earth is beneath you know, and holding you and keeping you secure. Yeah.
She loves us. I mean, we're a part of her body. Like, she loves us. And, she, you know, the earth wants to take care of us. And, you know, how can we start to, like, reflect her and our interactions and in, going forward.
Yeah.
Any closing words you want to say before we?
Mending the divide. Mending the divide. I mean, maybe that's also an illusion, right?
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but maybe not. I think mending, you know, I think of mending, like, I think of a lot of different things, but I think of like, like one of my mentors, Sharon Reed, she said, the only time a wound deepens is when we are unwilling to mend it. And so I always think of that when I'm thinking about, do I want to mend? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Not ignoring it, tending to it, tending to our relationships, not ignoring them, not cutting people off, not blocking them.
Not allowing people to make mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah. Being open, right? I mean, not everything has to happen all at the same time. And, you know, just like forgiveness, you can pray before you even forgive, but pray for forgiveness, or for the ability to forgive, but also that you can forgive small little things first. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Slowly, right?
Sweet. Small little things first.
Yeah. Practice forgiveness, for example.
Practice.
Right? And same thing, you know, like so many things are pushing us to separate and divide. And when you can, mend it, right? Tend to it. Tend to it. Do what you can to tend to it. Sometimes it doesn't work, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But there's also, because there's a lot of different, you know, avenues.
Yeah.
Right?
So many ways, so many inroads.
Yeah, you know. And also, like, how beautiful it is when people come back together, right? Isn't it?
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could take time. Sometimes, you know, it doesn't happen. That's where forgiveness comes in.
Yeah, hopefully.
Again,
hopefully,
you know,
yeah.
Hopefully. And
yeah.
And the thing is like the more we heal as people in the different ways that we can heal, slowly, the more of a possibility it is that we don't create these divides, right? Because again, we're still one. You know, how do we take responsibility for the way the world is, even if you think you're on this side or that side? Because tomorrow, you never know.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when we create the world like this. So be a leader that heals, that spreads healing, and know that you're a leader, no matter what you do. Leading your family, leader amongst your friends, leader at work, leader in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know,
we're leading.
Leader on the bus.
Yeah.
When you're sitting on the bus
Leader
and
in
you
the
see
grocery
somebody
store.
in the grocery store,
Yeah.
there's opportunities all the time. Have conversations with the taxi drivers.
Oh, yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah, I love it because you can, and then it's like, ciao.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're one, and
I'm
we can
saying-
affect each other. Yeah.
We're saying ciao to ourselves and
Yeah.
hello and goodbye.
Exactly.
Hello and goodbye.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah. Oh,
oh,
thank you.
Thank you, Anyieth.
We did it.
We did it. Yay. Oh. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being with us. We hope that you will lead and promote healing change and mend the things that need to be mended.
Mend and tend.
Thank you, Anyieth.
Thank you.